Admit. Admit. Gallery. Hey, Chrissy. Hello. I'm still on you. Hey, Sarah Becca. Hey.
Hi.
I'll just unmute Nat. Hey, Nat, can you see me?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, good.
Nat, this is Sarah Becca. Sarah
Hello.
Becca
How you going?
I'm
Sarah
doing great. Thank you.
in the US, over in the USA.
Long way away.
California.
California.
I'm a Californian. We talk like this.
Beautiful. Oh, and you're eating a popsicle.
I know.
Cold here. We got hoodies on.
Oh, look at me. I know. It is, I can't even tell you how bad the weather has been here. It's rained. I think we've had about 100 mils. This is
Yeah,
like
it's terrible.
terrible, isn't it? Is it raining in South Australia?
Not today.
No, well, that's good.
There we go. Now I'm here.
Hello. So I'm still a newbie at the whole Zoom thing. So if I got my it does my screen look a little bit better because I've got my webcam on, I think, because I know it was
It's clear. It's very clear.
beautiful.
But can you raise
There you go.
your laptop? No, not like that, but put it on something.
Yeah, I do.
Now tilt it down. Yeah.
There we go.
A little bit more. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I look better than I feel. It's amazing what Zoom does, isn't it? So, let me just cool. Okay. So we're going to, this is sort of the academy sort of just picking up and getting going, evolving because it's relatively new. So we should have Paula here any moment. So Paula is in Western Australia. But if you can't make it, you can't make it. That's okay. So basically, we're just going to do our weekly Q&As. And as we progress and we get more people in, because I actually had someone join up this morning. So it'll evolve and grow, and because it'll just sort of play it by year. But I thought what we'll do is just do a weekly Zoom. And I know last week we sort of combined, we thought we'll do some group coaching and the Q&As in one because we're all busy. I'm fairly lenient if you guys wanted to do 2 a week or 1, but I'm happy to do sort of like the first part we can do group coaching, and then there's sort of the last half hour or 20 minutes or whatever we can do Q&A if anyone has any questions for the week or whatever lessons are coming up. So does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, because we're all busy.
Yeah.
Life gets busy, so I thought that'd work. So basically today I just wanted to do what we did last week. It's only our second Zoom, have a chat, meet each other, see how we're going. And I also put up, I don't know if you saw it. So Nat, do you know, are you in the retraining with Ty group? I think you
Yes, I looked at it. I zoomed through it last night.
Yes, yeah, cool. No rush. And this is what I said to Paula as well, because they're there. So they're there for forever. They're not going to be removed. And you can just go in at your own leisure and go through the lessons. The group situation, so that's sort of like a group for the retraining with Ty series. But what I'm going to do is transfer that into an online course. So where the Kickstart roadmap is, there'll be all different courses there over the years. There'll be all different courses, or over the months, actually, I shouldn't say years, but you know, it'll. My goal is to be a long-term educational platform, and the processes of having 5, 6, you know, like even 7 courses there eventually, because there's so much in my head that I just, you know, there's so much that you can teach with horses and off the track thoroughbreds. It's just crazy. There's so much. So it's just a matter of doing steps, you know, and just getting it out there. Creating content takes a while. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at that lesson that I pop up last night. It's a rough version. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah. That was my today.
What was that, Sarah?
Last night was my today, I believe.
This
morning or the middle of the night. but yeah, whatever
Right.
it is. I'm very confused about the time difference.
So
It's
what's
2 o'clock right now.
in the afternoon?
Correct.
Okay, that's good because it is, well, you're in South Australia, Nat, aren't you?
Yeah, so it's 7:30
Ah,
a.m.
so it's 8 o'clock here. It
Yeah.
started at 8 here, so that's down in sort of Sydney, Canberra time. And I don't know how to turn my notifications. If that's dinging, I'm sorry because I don't know how to
Doesn't
turn my notifications off. And I think over in Western Australia they are behind.
It's about 3 hours.
Yeah,
So
they are.
it might be only 4:30 there.
Yeah, that's why Paul is probably still asleep.
Yeah.
So we'll just work it. I'm also lenient with the time as well. You know, as I said, we'll play it by year because our group is sort of fairly small. So we'll just play it by year and see how we go. So just let me know. So Nat, how are you going with your beautiful grey boy?
I'm just beyond. I'm so lucky. So I joined. So I'm very lucky. I gist him with people that have taken back all of their off the trackers, and they help support other people to take theirs off. And I'm just really lucky that he actually lives there. So he's mine, and I pay for his adjustment, but I go out 3 or 4 times a week and I do some yard work for them, like just cleaning up and tack room, feed room, whatever. So they've taught me pretty much all the handling, and not taught me, but helped me handle and feeding and all those sorts of things. And he's in with another lovely horse of theirs. They've got heaps of paddocks. Anyway, so yes, so used all of your training for groundwork. But literally, even just putting a blanket on him, I was shitting myself. I've only ever done riding lessons at a school. Yeah. And a bit of mucking around when I was a kid. So that helped me, and I followed it really diligently to the point now where I've had my 5th ride on him, and I've got a young girl, she's only 15, but she's retrained 3 ponies herself. She's got a trick pony. She only uses positive reinforcement. And she's a very good little rider. She rides for other people as well. She does works at a stables for a bit of experience. And she comes out with me once a week, and she started working this week. We're working on his walk to trot transitions. So I've trotted on him once, and I only walked on him this week because it was very, very windy, but he's responding to her on verbals. She said, your groundwork on him must have been amazing. She said, I don't even touch him to get him to stop. I just say stop. And he's just the most chilled, relaxed. It was blowing a gale. There was a horse that they've just got off the track in the next paddock, carrying on like Billy-O, magpie swooping. He just doesn't care. So she's also given me really good groundwork lessons to weaving over poles. I've gone and got a tarp, and just the first lesson, I don't force him. I just used, pressure release, positive. And I got him actually cornering over it without any sort of hesitation. So we're just sort of building our confidence, and I'm building mine. And so this week I'll practice on the walk trot transitions now that I've watched her do it. Yeah, so I do groundwork, I do a bit of riding, I'm doing float retraining because I don't think he's ever been on a straight load. So I'm a bit excited. I actually got him self-loading twice, and I stopped at that. So I'm just going to have to build that up until I can shut the door, but I'm happy to take my time and do it all properly and fear-free. So I'm very, very lucky. He's lovely. And he started doing the, fall asleep on my shoulder and just want hugs, and
Because also Sarah Becker, Nat you had a share in him as a racehorse, didn't you? So that's so exciting.
It is.
To get him after. And how many starts did he have?
60.
60. Wow. So he's a fairly seasoned racehorse.
Yeah, even though he's only 6, he ended up, he was with David and Chantel Jolly down here as a baby, and he ended up going to Alice Springs to a trainer who I know is very, very harsh, and he did okay there. Actually, no, he might have only had 20 or 30 starts, and then she sent him to her brother, who actually happens to be a trainer in the country down here on the Fleurieu Peninsula, and I think he only raced him about 6 times, and I just knew that he was getting close to the end, and so he had 3 different trainers, and I'm pleased. I thought he might be really quite fearful and quite reactive, because I know that she's a very hard trainer, and he's completely sound as well, so very lucky.
Very wonderful. Who's he by? What sire is he by?
He came out of Capazzini and Safeguard, and Capazzini was an Exceed and Excel.
Okay, yep, yeah. So that's a nice natured horses. You get some of the sires that tend to throw really nice horses, like Commands. They've always been really nice horses, and Redute's Choice. Yeah, just very laid back horses. Another one that I'm trying to think of, but yeah, so that's so good, and you sound like you're on the right path. Well, this lesson that I've just put up, I did about 150 takes on it.
It's a lot of information.
Well, I just kept, and then the dogs barked, and then I got my words mixed up, and so I got the recording perfect. So this is the first lesson in module 2. And then I realized that it recorded, my little cards at the side and everything, the keynotes. And I'm like, no. I thought I've just put it up there now anyway for you guys to see, because it's the learning series. And I'll redo it today, where you don't see the side, but it's all the same information. If you guys watch it, and you can let me know if you think I should change something. I know, Sarah Becker, you're pretty good with picking up all this content stuff, because it's a big learning curve for me. This horsey girl's like, oh my God, I'm doing pretty good compared to all my colleagues that are, but it's still a learning curve compared to these really digital savvy people that have been doing it for years. But it's all about the education and the content anyway, teaching. So that lesson is learning theory. So you said this trainer, Nat, works with positive reinforcement, young girl. So yeah, you'll see, I've just gone through everything. Go through it now if you like, or you can just pop on and have a look. It's 20 minutes. So I'm happy to do whatever you guys want to do. Did you want me to go through the lesson?
No, I can do that later.
Yeah, you can do it later because it's 20 minutes. Yeah. So how's Sailor going?
Well, what I'm very interested in, because Sailor's good, but he's just, still recovering and still showing a little bit of potential lameness on his injury. But so I've been riding other people's horses. I guess once you have a horse, you're in the club. And so people have been like, oh, I know a horse you can ride. Oh, here, why don't you ride my 25-year-old horse, even though I don't usually ride him, let's ride. And this other lady, and this other lady is like, yeah, ride my horse, who's barn sour, who is difficult. And they put this bit, so much bit pressure. And then the, ties around the jaw and the whole thing. So anyway, but with them, I'm checking out their gaits, and I'm just wondering what the off-track thoroughbreds gaits are like from walk, what kind of trot do they usually have? How is their canter? I imagine it's fast, but if you can talk about that at all.
Yeah, no, not necessarily fast. So you're riding at the no, well, I mean, it can be. They're all yours is your guy looks so chilled out, Nat.
I have to come on.
Yeah, and so he's habituated, and that's so with Ty, as we go through the Ty retraining Ty, but what I'll probably end up doing is putting in other videos as well, because I've got so many different horses of my own and starting to film them. Some like Nina are just like explosive hot, and others are very much like Ty. And what's your boy's name, Nat?
Bart.
Bart, that's right. Mine, because I used to ride a racehorse called Bart. He broke down in a race, actually. That was so sad. It was terrible. And so they're all very different, but Sarah Becky, you're riding, so they sort of sound like more riding school type horses. So they're quite often horses that have been ridden with a lot of other riders, and then they've got a bit of learned helplessness, or they shut down, so they become fairly numb. I presume that, you wouldn't be able to get these horses moving forward with a light nudge of your legs. So.
No, well, this one horse wants to go into the canter because he's got an injury. So both the horses are in pain, but they want me to ride them anyway. So that's very difficult for me. And like the horses know, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, as I'm putting the bit in its mouth. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know this is terrible. So they pick up on that too from me. Yeah. And then they're probably, I don't know, they're like, constantly chopping at the bit and like, and she keeps saying, she's a dressage rider. So she keps saying, tighten up your reins, tighten up your reins.
Oh, yeah, that's all. There's so much. There was, well, you're looking at the Sue Dyson, I shared that in the group, the Academy here, but also the 24 Pain. That was an excellent. Did you get a chance to watch that? Wasn't that good? She's amazing. Well, I've got the course, so I'll actually share some information of that in here because I haven't gone through all of it yet, but it's just such valuable information.
Were you a fan of Warwick Schiller?
No.
Okay.
No. Now the only reason I'm not, I've tried to have challenge Warwick Schiller, but he doesn't like it. So it's not that I just like to debate or like to try and ask what was happening. Why is he doing this and what's actually achieving? So Warwick Schiller, I think in his earlier days, he was more clear with his training, but now what he's done is he's gone into more relationship. So, he does a lot of what's called anthropomorphism, so putting human tendencies and human attributes on horses. Now, I did that, and I can see what would just say, 15, 20 years ago, I was there, I would have followed Warwick Schiller, and I followed people like that. And it's only through learning that, and so much of training, I would say probably 90% of it is either ignoring the horses, how they communicate, or putting human attributes onto them. And Warwick Schiller, I actually critiqued one of his videos that he was doing with a mare connection or something, and I've actually got it in my notes here. I broke it down into all these things and posted it, and he deleted it. Because I just said, I just said, look, this is what's happening. So it was basically all pressure release, and the horse was showing tension. And he was using a bit like Monty Roberts, sort of like join up, push away, and that, and talking as connection, and I was seeing what was happening. So I don't like Warwick Schiller because it's confusing training, and it's also putting a lot of human tendencies and attributes onto horses, when that then makes training, well, we're not doing the horse, we're not being fair on the horse, because they're not a human. We can't say they're naughty, they're cranky. I watched a video yesterday, and another trainer, and this, I'm always learning as well, because it's very hard to break that mold of putting human tendencies on horses, and we all want to have that connection, that trust, that relationship with our horse. And so that's why these types of training sell so well, because especially females, we want to connect with our horse, and it's our, that ear means he's connecting with me, and he's, so this woman yesterday was saying, releasing anxiety and that with horses, and I was thinking, what is she doing? And then she's saying, well, see, this horse has put an ear to me, and so she's thinking that I'm keeping the lions away from her and protecting her. And I'm like, well, how do you know she's thinking that? She's not so, but it's so easy to get into that, and it's so hard to step out of our world and into the horse's world and read their body language. So that's the reason I don't like Warwick Schiller, because he's coming from the humans, very much more so recently, putting human attributes and tendencies onto horses. I think that just takes us down the wrong path. And that's why I love equitation science so much, because it is, and the first 2 lessons, as I said, you probably haven't watched them yet, Nat. I go into how a horse learns, and then
I have.
Yeah. So we really need to, I mean, it's still hard for me, but because I've got so many horses, and I've been doing it and practicing it, and I'm doing the diploma of equitation science, I catch myself and I go, let me see it from the horse's point of view. How do they see me? And it's practice of like, okay, we need to try and learn their language, not put any, it's like, even saying a horse is naughty. A horse is never naughty. A horse is never has any human attributes, because they can't. So they speak in behavior, and it's either a learnt behavior, or it's one of their natural behaviors. So so before I go into the gaits and everything, Sarah Becca, just for instance, in this lesson that I, learning theory, so I go through positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment and negative punishment, and classical conditioning. I tried to make it easy, so you guys can let me know whether it's easy, because I reread it in my textbooks and that. It's like, how do I make this easy for everyone to understand? Because it's really important, because in the end, they're learning every time we handle a horse. We're teaching them something, and it's hard. I find it still hard to grasp that concept. So for instance, I used Mac. So Mac is a big 17 one-hand horse that I rode off the track. I've got him here. He did a tendon in a race. He's huge. And his trainer was scared of him at feed time. He's an older elderly trainer. He was 70. And so what he would do is he would put his feet in first, and then come out, and then you'd lead Mac in, and then you'd turn him around, and you'd let him go, and you'd run out really fast, because he would turn around and swing and kick out, and you couldn't go near him with his feed. So Mac has learnt, his aggression with food is a learnt behavior from how the trainer and the stable hands were acting with him. They were scared, so you could never take his feed in there and put it in there, because he was really scary. And I thought, geez, if this horse was retrained to like a pony club, like rehomed to a pony club person, I would just hate to think, just that issue in itself, even if he's quite to ride and all of that. So I was feeding him one day, just not long after I got him, about 2 weeks, and he was in a paddock with another horse that I had before I've moved him here. And when I went to put in the feed, he literally turned around and went for my face with bare teeth. And it was really scary, but because I've been around horses, I had a big reflex action, and it was no aggression or anything. It was just like a knocked hand, and I knocked his head out of the way. And I thought, wow, like that is just, he would have taken my face off. And I thought, when I broke it down, so I've actually gone and started retraining him, and putting a head collar and lead rope on him, and when he goes to do that, why did he stop and go? So that helps. But it's just showing that his behavior, people would say that he's aggressive, he's dangerous, he's this and that. But what it is, it's just that that's learnt behavior. He has learned that he can move any threats. Well, racehorses tend to, though. Your guy, Bart, probably doesn't have any issues with getting aggressive at feed time or feeling threatened. He sounds so relaxed, Nat.
Well, interesting, because Sarah Becca's just going to put the blanket on her horse. It's falling off.
Oh, she? Okay.
Yeah. He's just started to develop. The horse that he's in with is beautiful, but he's like that. He'll run up to feed time. So we feed Digger first, but the lady that lives there. She was feeding Bart the other night, and he turned around, put his back to her, and went to kick out, and actually clipped her just on the edge of her butt. And it's because Digger comes up, like Digger scoffs his feed, and then comes running down to eat Bart's. And they've got kids, they've got 8 horses to feed, so. Yes, you can shut the gate, but then you've got to go back and open it because that's where the water is, blah, blah, blah. So I've been going up with her and just holding the feed. So what we've been doing is just putting on a rope and halter, because he's got really quite nice manners. So he's being taught wait. And so I stay outside the gate. She puts him on the halter and the rope, and she'll just walk him to the feed bin. And then I go in, and if he starts to be silly, then he wants to get at the food and swing around. So she'll just get him to stand. And as soon as we get just a nice quiet stand and then we put the bucket in, and then we can take the holder and the rope off. And then I've started just doing that, walking around, padding, and doing lots of, and also when I'm working him now, I'm doing lots of, at the butt, like to the point I can stand behind him now and he'll lift his tail and I'll scratch his butt. And we've only had to do it 2 or 3 times, but it was a really good reminder that you have to be watching all the time, because and I found the other thing that I found the most really useful for me being a novice is whenever I wonder about why is he doing that, why doesn't he want to go on the float, all that stuff, I just go fear. That I just remind myself fear. He's confused, he's anxious, he doesn't know what he's doing, and first instinct is always fear, get away from it. So I just try and remember slow, let him sniff, let him look, let him compose, and until I get that, then I don't move to the next thing. And perfect. I find that has been that's the really valuable thing that I just keep remembering. When something's not right or it's not happening or I'm wondering what he's doing, I just go fear. Remember, first response is fear. So look, what's going on? Okay, sort it and move. But but it was interesting. It was the last thing she thought he'd do as well. And because the girls are 14 and 16, but they had a good family conversation, because sometimes the girls feed the horses as well. They just had a family, conversation about, even though everyone's lovely and they're all got good manners, you just have to remember that they're a horse. And sometimes they're going to do things that you're not going to predict, and you always have to be safe. So
that's exactly right. They're a flight animal, and their first go-to is flight, fear, or reaction. So that's really good, because it's the same with Mac. He's just kicking out because of feeling threatened. He's got a response, so his action has actually given him the response of the trainer moving away. So I've been doing the same as what you've been doing, is just standing with the head collar and lead rope and being able to touch him all over and get him habituated to having someone walk around. I can even now, I can't put his rug, well, I haven't tried that, but just moving his rug around, because he would try and kick out and turn around. And so that's a really good attitude, because a lot of people will get frustrated and angry, especially the younger people get impatient with their horse. And I think that's where the learning theory and understanding the nature of horses is really important. And that's why I think's missing with like that lady yesterday in Warwickshire, whereas you've got that really good perception and attitude of he's not doing this because he's fearful, whereas they just once they connect with me and they trust me, I can do anything. And that's just not gonna, it's not
and you can't control the environment.
That's exactly right.
And they don't, like you said, they don't think ahead.
No, they react in the moment. And that's why training the basic responses is really important, because when you can keep them calm and be able to stop their legs, it's really interesting being able to slow their legs down and not let them, because getting away from something is really rewarding to them. So if a really scary situation happens and you've got some control and you can slow their legs down and maybe even lower their head, their adrenaline goes down, their fear goes down. So it's interesting how changing the movement of their legs will then decrease, their fear response. So yeah, it's really important. So I go through that. So this lesson is all it goes through because you're doing animal care. So is it animal training?
I did I don't know if you've heard of Delta. Years ago I did a Cert 4 in animal behavior, which is all I used to be the temperament assessor for a shelter. So it was my job to decide whether a dog was safe to rehome. Yep. And also set up the retraining programs.
Oh, wow.
But one of the head lecturers was the Kirsty, can't remember her surname, but she was the lead trainer at SeaWorld for the polar bears. Yeah. When we had to train goats and chickens and, apply all those principles to everything. And you can't push killer whales and polar bears around. You have to, yeah. Right,
exactly.
There's a really good book called, I'll have to find it. I'll find it in my books, but I think it's called Positive Training for Dummies. And it's actually a really good breakdown so it's a whole book on that slide pack.
Yeah, okay.
And it breaks it down with it's basically all around dogs, but it's the same principles.
It's all the same principles, whether it's any animal. It's all the same principles. The interesting thing with horses, and that's what we go into more, is negative reinforcement, and is used a lot more with horses and other animals. And you get a lot of trainers, and I always look too, because I want to do the most the kindest and most ethical, and I'll evolve as well. But they all question negative reinforcement with horses. And the thing is, we have to, and it goes back to safety, and this is what equitation science does, Andrew McLean, because without installing pressure release, the stop response, because that's more reinforcing than just your positive reinforcement. We're working with a big 500 kilo animal. Plus, and we're sitting on their back. So to go and be able to stop them and slow them with the reins, and getting them to go forward and turning them is really important. So just retraining that by just say positive reinforcement in a situation where you said like the environment is going to influence their fear response, slowing them down with the seat is not going to be effective. No. And so that's the thing with positive negative reinforcement or trial and error learning is just
I should say like the conditioning, the whole thing. You'll understand that.
Easy, and you probably will too, Sarah, because you've done it as well, haven't you? The learning theory.
We just broke up.
Have you done learning theory? That you understand the learning theory and operant conditioning as well, don't you?
Yeah. I've been studying wildlife and animal behavior. So
that's amazing. You guys will just go, this is easy.
To read it, to do it.
Absolutely. Well, doing it and putting it, breaking it and going, okay, well, and that's like the whole practical thing. But I think it's good to know it first so we know what we're doing.
Like Nat, I think we have an advantage that I don't know about you, but I've forgotten most of everything between like the time I was last riding and now. So I feel like, I don't know, for me at least, like I've forgotten a lot of the assumptions. And so now I'm just watching his behavior and learning from him.
Yes.
As much as I can, except for learning from you. I mean, I am learning a lot.
Yes.
And it's a little confusing because I'm training with you, but then I'm going and riding other people's horses because I need some time in the saddle. So before I jump on Sailor. So it's confusing because like one lady's teaching me the dressage whip another way, and another one.
Can I just, Sarah Beckett, just for I don't have any riding experience. I went and got 6 months of formal lessons just to be confident getting on him, and, you know, just to learn my aids, like relearn my aids properly and those sorts of things. I don't think, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think having lots of riding experience makes a difference. My big thing that I focused on my groundwork was that I had a really good stop and I felt like I could trust it, you know, in a controlled environment, in the paddock and whatever. And lots of going up to the mounting block and getting him to stand and laying over the top of his back without a saddle or anything, just for me to feel like, okay, you can handle me being on you, you can handle my weight, you're not freaking out. And then I went to taking him up and doing the groundwork as well, because I wanted to know when I got on him, he was definitely going to stop. And I haven't found that being able to ride makes any difference. Like, I feel that as I want to move on with him, if I need to be better at that, then I'll go and get the lessons then. But that's just my personal feeling.
Yeah. Well, and you know your horse, it sounds like.
Yeah.
My horse, I don't know if he's gonna be like that.
Yeah, but I didn't do that I've had him for a year. Dougie.
Oh, there you go.
My dog's about.
I was gonna say, Poppy, shush.
Sorry.
They're like,
yeah, I didn't.
Very nice guys.
I didn't get on him until I'd had him for 10 months. Didn't even go to try.
Yeah, I think we have 8 months.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to tie him up. You know.
So that's, yes, this is where you need to, and that's what we'll go into. We'll even start in going into the YouTube videos and doing your stop and go and teaching him to tie up and that, because once you
no,
like,
he does. It's just that, like, why should I if he'll just do it for me? You know, like, if I can get him to give me his feet without tying him up, then, because either way, if I tie him up, he's still not going to give me his feet. Like, and if I don't tie him, it's, you know, a little bit better, I feel like.
But so tying up is actually, you want to be, see, because he may pull back. So it's just a symptom.
Oh, no.
So tying up is, you need to be able to tie up for.
Oh, yeah, I'm able to. I just think, like, I've been thinking about the whole ethical equestrianism. Like, why are we tying them up? Like, they're a slave to us, you know, like.
And that's where you need to, now I completely understand where you're coming from. And I have, and this, because as you go through training, it's like we're making them do things. We're controlling their movement and things like that. The thing is, we've got to see it from, and this is where we need to step out of, because if we're going to own a horse, okay, we are going to be asked, we're going to ride them. So we're putting them in a situation where they're not a slave. No, I always like to see it as a partnership, and depending on what you want the partnership to be, pleasure riding, or I used to be a dancer, so I like to see me as the leading partner in a dance and a guide to them. So when you're training, the thing is to see that teaching him to tie up, teaching him all these cues and everything creates calmness in him, because he's going to understand. You're going to need to be able to control his legs. You're going to need to be able to tie him up. And it's not about him being a slave, but it's about creating a between you. Now, he's a flight animal, he's a fear animal. And he's okay to tie up now, but just say something falls out of the sky, I don't know, or some big loud bang happens, and you tie him up and he pulls back. One, he's expressed the fear response, and two, he's got away and he's got a learnt behavior. So it's a matter of seeing it from a learning theory, and that you are doing him you are doing a positive ethical, by training him so that he understands all the responses you're asking of him. He is clear on whatever you ask of him, and that creates calmness in him. So does that sort of make sense? Because I absolutely understand where you're coming from is,
Yeah.
you know, we're training horses, we're training animals where they're being our slave. And I've sort of, you know, because we love our horses and we want a relationship and that, but we have to think, well, we've chosen to take on a horse and we are going to have to control them for not only our safety, but for their safety. And so animal training, we do need to train them, and animal training it's weird because if once you train them with these responses, they start to become calm and clear, even though I suppose we are controlling them in a way, but we're controlling them because what it's doing is it's giving them what horses want to have control over their environment. It's giving them control over their environment, that when you tie him up and you've taught him that if he pulls back and he feels that pressure and he comes forward, he's been able to release that pressure by stepping forward. So it's hard to see, but if you step out of your world and you give him his world, and when you ask him to take a step forward and release, he's able to release that pressure. And so that's giving him control of his environment. With your horses that you're riding, they've got, you know, they're chomping and leaning on the bit. They've got that nose thing. They haven't got control of their environment.
No.
They can't get rid of the pressure.
No.
So I know where you're coming from. Absolutely. And I think that, but just from my own horses, and by having them trained so that we can control them, but they actually in their world, even though we think we're controlling them, as long as we do pressure release right down to the finest, we train them right down to the finest subtle movements, and then we can even add cues so that you're teaching parks. So you think, oh, we're teaching our horse to stand there until we're asking him to move. He's my slave. But then in their world, they are understanding that they're happy, they're safe, they're relaxed standing there, and that, you know, if you've taught them to stand, to just say the word go, you know, they have no pressure on them. Whereas if you're hobbling a horse, my ex is a really old-fashioned horse breaker. So he's made horses stand by hobbling them. I mean, that's a learned helplessness. So there's two differences. You're sort of training them to be so responsive to their cues that they are relaxed and calm. Whereas the horses that you're riding are confused and stressed because they're not, you know how they're chomping at the bit, so that you might ask them to stop, but you still feel that heavy pressure there. So they're not giving to the pressure. They're not trained to the light responses. So they can't get rid of the pressure. Well, racehorses, that's pretty much what that is. So I do understand where you're coming from, but try and see it from an animal training point of view, that if you train him to be so clear in his responses, he can control his environment and he can relax and understand. He has a clear understanding of what you're asking of him. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Tomorrow I'm writing a schoolmaster Hanoverian who's like 22 years old. I'm hoping that it's a little more enjoyable together. I just want to ride a horse that wants to be ridden.
I don't think you're going to find that with these types of horses, unfortunately, because of, you know, habituation to pressure. Whereas this is how with Sailor, you can train him. This is why, once again, you can train him to enjoy being ridden. Because horses, in the end, they're a social animal. They seek that interaction with themselves, but also with humans as well. They get attached. So we can use our training to develop a really positive relationship with them, to use positive reinforcement as part of your training, that they start to go, oh, if I'm standing here and I park, I get a scratch on the wither and I start to relax. So in their world, they learn that this is pleasurable. And so you know, you can sort of, once you understand learning theory, you can change it though, even though we're training our horse to listen to us, we can change it to that in their world. It's pleasurable, it's enjoyable. I understand. So anything, these horses don't understand what's being asked of them because they never get relief.
Well, looking at what we worked on in this module and thinking about how horses naturally are, like they're naturally curious and they want to like keep moving and like go over the land, you know, like they're not supposed to just be in an arena going around and around and around. Like these 20-meter circles are so annoying. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Guys. Oh, sorry, I'm having a dog. Hey, turn it off. Ah, Suki, they've been asleep. Sorry, guys.
So I'm relying on those two facts of curiosity and wanting to go places, that if he'll let me ride him. I mean, I think you've seen where I live. It's like we have so many places we could go, so many rivers and lakes just from here, just like taking off from the house. And like,
But yeah, like
so I'm
Matt
hoping
said,
that will be the positive reinforcement.
yeah, well, as we go through, so the next lessons will be the shaping scale. We're going through, it's like you start off at basic response and you want to refine your aids till you shape them to your horse can just move to the side by a cue, a word. That's a process, but that's what shaping the aids are. But you can drive, yeah, so horses do need to roam and all of that, but that's what that part of that is giving them the paddocks and the space and the other equine companionship in the 24, you know, in their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Bailey, I'm going to open this door and let the dogs out. Just give me one tick while I let these dogs out. Come on, you guys go out.
I just hope he wants to go have some adventures.
Outside. They've all woken up. I'll put,
And you guys are all pale and the light is like kind of bluish. And here I am like tan.
no, I don't know why I'm.
Look at the light. It's so golden. Like
It
so
is.
California.
It is. And we're like freezing in Australia.
It looks
Maybe.
very blue, like you've got clouds in the sky.
I
And
don't know why I'm blue. I have to go into my webcam and check my settings. It's
well,
once again
is it the sky? What's the sky look like right now?
disgusting.
Yeah. It's just the light. It's just the lighting from your
Not true.
sky.
Yeah, it's dark outside. It's been about 100 mils of rain, and I couldn't take 2 steps with going ass over head
Well,
yesterday. It was
we would-
depressing.
We would love to have your rain because
Oh, you can have it. Seriously, I was just like, I'm over it. So, yeah. So with
did
yeah,
we
so
talk
that-
about gates?
yes, that's what I was going to go into. So with off the track thoroughbreds, so the horses, depending on what horses you're riding, but I'd say that they're sort of a bit numbed down. And off the track thoroughbreds can be that way as well. So very dull to the age. So not all, like Ty, for instance, you'll see him like he was Gutsuki. He was so numb to the aids, and it sounds like Bart Nat's horse is very slow as well. Whereas you can get other off the track thoroughbreds, and Sailor may be the same, where you get on and they're very sensitive to the aids. Or they might be like Paula's horse, Paula's mare. She's very forward and rushy. So they can all be individual. Their gaits in particular, what they tend to be is a bit on the forehand. Okay, so heavy in front, you'll feel like that they're not using their hind end, that they're off the track thoroughbreds tend to be on the forehand. The reason for that is because in racing, well, one, unless you're, you know, the rare track work rider that wants to keep them in self-carriage. Like, oh, I've always loved biomechanics, well, towards my later years here. So all my racehorses that I rode in track work, I would like to be in self-carriage and using their hind end. But generally they'll be on the forehand and lean onto the forehand and lean into the right, like the bridle, or they might have that hollow back and sort of stiff tenseness. But galloping, so racing, you know, in the movement of racing, you'll see that in the kickstart. When you in the kickstart course, I compare them how when galloping they flatten down and they use their body more in a horizontal, stretched out way, and then they push underneath, but they'll lean into pressure, and quite often they'll use the rein and bit pressure as to help them balance. So that's typically what you'll get with off the track thoroughbreds. They won't want to use their hind end.
Right. So what does that feel like? Is there trot? Because it looks like Sailor has a nice, beautiful trot that will be easily sat or posted or anything. But is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're all different. They're all different. Like racehorses, thoroughbred racehorses aren't like your standard breds, which have this pacing or this trotting. That we do a lot of cantering and obviously your gallops and pace work and things like that. So they can have a really lovely trot. They're all very different. It also depends on how they've been trained, how sound they are, because if they've been racing, with pain, which a lot of them have been, where they're going to compensate, and they can be, some off the track thoroughbreds, really short and choppy because they've been compensating for so long, or they've got some arthritis, and others can be, beautiful. He didn't have many starts, did he?
No, only 10.
Yeah. So he hasn't got a lot of wear and tear, and
except he won like 4 and placed in the other one. So like, I feel like when you win, it's worse on them.
Well, he did. What's he recovering from though? A
sesamoid fracture.
That's right. So he has got soundness issues, but the fractures tend to heal, like bones tend to heal.
Well, and I was wondering, it's on the front. So
Yes.
he's been avoiding using his front. Maybe it's helping him get in self-carriage.
No, well, not
If
so
he's
much.
Leaning back more.
Yeah. Oh, well, is he still doing that? Is he?
Yeah, and he won't let me pick up his right foot. His left one is the one that's injured, and he doesn't want to put pressure on that one.
Yeah.
And he seems to always pack his feet with yucky stuff, and we think it's because they're hurting him. So I got him boots. You know about the boots?
Yeah. Yep.
So I got him some boots, but so when I put the boots on, he didn't want the left one taken off.
So he's got some pain somewhere. You know what? I would get him on. When did he do the fracture? That's been quite a while now, hasn't it?
January 21st.
I'd get him on a joint supplement.
Yeah, no, he is.
Is he? Perfect.
Yeah. I've got him on a few different things, and also a blood cleaner, the natural stuff. I forget what it's called. But some good blood cleaner. I had an osteopath come out and work on him. He's got 2 vets. So yeah, we got
his biomedical team. I would look at what joint supplement do you have him on?
It's called Grand Hoof.
Grand Hoof. Because I would get him on a really good green-lipped muscle joint supplement.
And then he takes In Sync.
What's it called? What's it called? What was it called? The joint supplement?
It's Grand Hoof.
Grand Hoof. I'll have a look.
And then he does the Invite and Sync and Summer Electrolytes, which has not just electrolytes, but some of those minerals in it that he needs, selenium, etc. Selenium is very lacking in our area. So I also bought some of the other like trace mineral ones, but he really dislikes. I try to hide it, but I'm getting a little better at hiding supplements.
Well, you just want to make sure you've got Feed XL, haven't you? You want to make sure that you've not imbalancing his diet. Put it through Feed XL. Do you have Feed XL on what? Not that you put. Do you have Feed XL?
Who, Nat or me?
Nat. Oh, Nat. Oh,
you should just be on mute.
No, I unmuted.
There you go. Do you have Feed XL?
I did have a look at it, but because of where he is, although Christina and I kind of work together with what supplements we think they need, but I'm pretty happy with his balance, and I guess I defer to them a bit because all of their horses are off the trackers. So but depending on the season and what's happening with their coat, or if they're a bit hot, then Christina and I kind of work together to work out what we put in there. But we use a lot of high gain stuff.
Yep.
And I've had him on Gut Protect just like one bucket of it. Once we finish that, we're moving to, we just got it, I'm waiting for it to get delivered, and I can't remember, but it's more of a broader like balancer with added salts and magnesium and that sort of thing, because we're coming into a lot of grass.
Oh, I know. So, Suki, so are we here. Like, I've added extra magnesium, extra my problem with the big head and that.
Yeah.
Extra magnesium, calcium. I haven't got anywhere that's not green grass. It's just, the magnesium is really.
So we're just moving into that now. Yeah.
So, Sarah Becker, I would just make sure that you're not, if keeping the minerals in balance, but because he's fractured his sesamoids, I'll have a look at that. I can't recommend highly enough a really good joint supplement. I've got one that is just, it's a miracle. My little dog that fractured a pelvis is jumping in and out of the car and running around like she's never done it. And I had her on.
Do you know what Smart Pack is?
Yeah, Smart Pack. I think that, yes, I do. It's a US, because
I told you a couple of them because I don't want to go into a long list, but I bought $500 worth of supplements from them, all in these Smart Packs, all measured out. So, but he won't eat all of them. So there's some he'll eat and some he won't. But we had gone over okay, what does he need? There's a Cavolo muscle and tendon builder, but I'm trying to get him to eat that one. But I bought a lot of stuff. But you know what's so funny? My farrier and my favorite vet, they both wouldn't just believe me about what I was feeding, but they literally went in the feed shed and went through it. And my farrier grabbed a bag, and was okay, bird food. Let me make sure that she's not feeding any molasses or anything bad. Isn't that cute?
It sounds like he's very spoiled. I do. Well, I used to do that, buy every single supplement, because I get so confused. What do they want? Now, you sort of break it up and you learn through, there's some supplements that I just, through years that have been so successful for me. And this is a joint supplement, but this is a particular joint supplement. But I like to have if I had the money, I would have all my horses on a joint supplement, this one in particular. But every time, each one that comes into work, I get them on it. So I just think we don't know what's there, and especially if he's showing some signs of tenderness, I would look at a really good green-lipped muscle joint supplement. Yeah. We've got, I know you can't get it in the US, Techniflex, but we have it here in Australia and New Zealand and in the UK.
Smart Flex. That's one of the ones. Smart Flex. Yeah.
Smart Flex, Flex.
Yep. And they're all in Smart Pack, which is, people buy a lot of stuff from Smart Pack.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, and that other supplement the osteopath recommended is milk thistle.
Yeah, I think that's a liver cleanser.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because she saw lines on his side, when they kind of have weird little striation lines on their bellies. She said that's the lymph nodes trying to clear.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
She recommended milk thistle.
Well, thoroughbreds are on such a high concentrate diet. They're just, their gut is so compromised that I wouldn't be surprised, I
think Yarrow was the other one.
Yeah, a lot of pre-packaged feeds. I find that looking at the United over in America, your horse feeds over there are shocking. I feel so blessed here in Australia. We've got some High Gain is really good, isn't it, Nat? And hides. They're equine only mills, and they're very clean feeds. Though both do have the odd feed that has, obviously racehorse feeds, they do have I don't know if the racehorse feeds do, but some of the pellets have the mill run. So I tend to avoid anything wheat based because it's not very good. Anything mill run or anything is not good for the gut. But over in the States, the feeds tend to have a lot of distillers grains in them, and your wheat wheat fillers. It's not good for horses at all. So I'd have a look and make sure, because not only is it damaging to the gut, but it's also inflammatory. And that's the last thing you want for Sailor, is to cause, any more inflammation.
Yeah.
If you've got-
No, I don't do any feeds or any grains. When I make up like his food, I use alfalfa cubes,
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
which he loves.
Yeah.
And then he gets like so much hay, and a couple alfalfa flakes lately, ever since the vet confirmed he's still growing.
He's
Um,
poor.
He's what? Oh, good. She's waking up. 5:30. That's still early.
That's dedicated.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I do get a feed, I think I showed you the Crypto Arrow one. And it's like the purest thing you've ever seen. It's 60 American dollars for a 30-pound bag. Like,
Oh, really?
once in a while I get that as a treat, but it's like compressed alfalfa. It's got like cranberries in it. It's got good chafe in it. It's from Florida. You can like smell the sunshine.
That sounds
Hey,
really.
there's Paula.
Hey, Paula. Paula,
How
this is
you
Nat.
going?
That's
Hi,
Nat
Nat.
in South Australia, and Paula is in Western Australia, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Awesome.
Is it? I look very, compared to you guys, I look very grey. This is my new
I
webcam.
did it at the beginning, you weren't, but then the light
Mm.
changed, I think.
That's probably because the sun's coming in. I look very.
You have a desk lamp?
No,
Mm.
I've got the sun. Oh, well, a little bit of the sun coming in, that horrible grey. just
Yeah.
been running non-stop. But yeah, I'll play with the settings next time. I'll try and get I'm clear. That's the main thing. You can see me.
Like,
Yeah.
keep going sort of pale and then colour, pale then colour. Well, on
Oh,
my
do
end
it?
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the clouds.
That's weird. I'll have to work out. I'm so not tech savvy. It's crazy. I'll have to work out, maybe put my blinds down and do a light next time.
Well,
'Cause
what
I've
they
got-
do, yeah. So the people like you, influencers or whatever you guys are, they have these round lights.
Yes, a
That's
ring
not-
light. Yeah.
Yeah, ring light.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
neat.
do that. I've got a ring light. It's got all dog rugs in it, but I've got it there because the dogs have been out. I brought them out doing the horses yesterday. I had 7. Oh, well, no, Minnie didn't, God bless her, but 6 mud-covered dogs coming into the house. It was just terrible. And feeding up 19 horses in the slop, mud, rain. I was just like, oh, that's it. I'm moving to the desert.
Well, oh, come to California.
Oh, I go somewhere. I'm planning to go to Victoria. I'm moving to Victoria. Yes, that's my goal. Next 12 months, going to Victoria.
Good. So you have
Yes.
options. Good.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Good.
So looking really forward to it. Looking
Get
for a
away
place-
from the oxalates.
Yeah, well, the oxalate, I'm not on oxalates. That's the interesting thing. Yeah, not my pasture situation has been really bizarre because I'm not on oxalates. It's been the we think it's the high potassium, high nitrates in the soil and in the grasses that's been blocking the calcium magnesium absorption. It's just been it's so complicated. I've got them on so much calcium, so much magnesium, but pasture is just, well, as Paula knows, pasture is just insane with what it
Oh,
can
I've had a hell of a time over here. Got one girl down with staggers after a couple of days.
I know.
And the other one, awful. Can't believe it. And I went round and checked the ryegrass, and you can actually see the orange fungus in the seed heads.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. Done a bit of research on the ryegrass, and there's quite a few different things that can go wrong with it. I can't reel it all off the top of my head, but that there's a blackness that gets to it. If it's beige colour, green or purple, it's fine. And all the other things like black and orange, and there's little white bugs that get on it. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong with it. But mine's definitely got the orange fungus. Ugh. So no wonder she got sick.
That's terrible. I had
Yeah.
all the white little bugs last autumn, spring, or last autumn. Definitely, I had all the white because we had a very humid summer here, And I was just like, I can actually see the mold and fungus on the grass. It was,
same.
yeah, it's terrible. I've had to
Wow.
put it out on the grass last night, and it's got ryegrass in it, but it looks like it's longer. So I have nowhere that hasn't got green grass. It's really hard. It's so hard. I just want dry brown grass, and
That's what I
don't
have.
yeah,
10% humidity, you'll get, and lots of fires, you'll get no mold, no mildew.
yeah. Well, not humidity at the moment, but so much rain, and a lot of horses are suffering being pasture affected in Australia here at the moment.
Yeah.
Because of ridiculous weather.
We have so much dirt and dust in our hay. I'm afraid they're going to get breathing problems or sand colic. Like, it's just like,
Wow.
Is it
so
really?
dry, full of dust.
You can have if you want, if you can sprinkle it down with water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also psyllium husks. You put him on psyllium husks once a month.
I just started a few days ago. I was like, I better do this because he might get sand colic.
Yes. Yeah. Put him on some silk. I think it's 4 or 5. You don't want to go over 4 or 5 days every month.
Okay,
Oh, can't hear Nat.
good. Thanks for confirming that.
Yeah. Oh, there you are, Nat.
Yeah.
Yes, the psyllium husk, because I actually put a couple of my horses on the psyllium husk when I had them in, like through where I wasn't letting them out on any pasture. One horse in particular, I thought, I think they're getting, because they've, even though I've got hay nets, it's just, any hay that falls on and it was dry there for a period of time. And one was getting a little bit of colic. I thought, I'm going to get him on psyllium husks. Yeah.
Mm.
So
What does a little bit of colic look like?
Oh, well, they'll start to get, so they'll
Scratch.
yeah, like tummy ache. Yeah, they could stretch out with their front legs. They'll turn around and look at their sides. If they're eating, they'll stop eating. They get quite distressed. They'll start rolling.
Well, that's when you really have colic, right? But
Yes,
so,
yeah,
the little, because sometimes
Yeah.
he bites at his sides,
yeah.
but there's also a lot of flies right now. So
If they're biting, well, if they're biting at their sides and there's what you sort of want to look and see is a fly there. He'll look a little bit distressed if he's
Yeah.
biting, if he's got colics and he won't eat. So if
he's
got
fine.
that,
but
Yeah.
I'll look out for that.
yeah, just sittles, because sometimes it's hard. I've had my horse, he's a windsucker, and he's gets very anxious, and he was getting like a gas colic. And I, and that's because of you, Paula. I got him on chamomile flowers, and geez, he's improved so much from the
Nice.
chamomile flowers. Yes, he has. It's
Excellent.
amazing. Yeah.
I love it. I've got mine on it constantly because it just settles them down, really just relaxes things.
I
We just
Great.
as well because of
Really?
you.
Did you? Yeah, they're fantastic, Nat. I've noticed maybe something you might think of, Sarah Becker, as chamomile. I'm using the tea cut, so it's because I've got some horses as well. I put 2 tablespoons in, and my older horse that had like continual loose stools and diarrhea for a year, it cleared that up. I was amazed at how good the chamomile is working on numerous levels, not just for clearing up diarrhea, but also the horse that was getting like gas colic. So amazing.
They've just got one in just in the last week. He's just come off the track to retire. He's only 5 or 6. And he's obviously a bit, stressy because he's just come back down from Darwin. And I was telling Christina about your story, Paula. And so we just ordered some of that as well for him, but also, just sometimes they do get a bit of scour. So we thought we'll give it a go. It's natural and it's working. So
it's working.
Excellent.
It is. It's great. I love that, and I love the smell of it as well. Like I just think, but then when I have some, I don't like the taste. I just like the smell of it.
Yeah, but I found if you won't taste your horse's food, like, I've tasted the things that Sailor won't eat, and I'm like, oh, that is disgusting.
It's like the protein powder that I have at the
I'm
moment.
a weird
It's
Californian though, right?
Yeah, well, you've got some weird supplements there. You put some weird stuff in it, but I would look and make sure that there's nothing. Smart Pack is really good, but I still would have a look and make sure that there's nothing that could be irritating his gut, because I've noticed over in the US, you do get the artificial, for some reason, anything artificial I would never give to a horse,
No.
artificial flavors or an artificial color, because they're so sensitive with their gut. So
Yeah.
he could be not
That
wanting
dirt
to.
though, all that dust has got to be affecting him.
Yeah, get him on
So much
psyllium.
Dust in the hay here, it can't be prevented right now.
Yeah, it's either dust or it's mold or fungus or something, isn't it? It's crazy, and that's a toxin. Well, I've really upped the toxin binder with my horses as well. So did you get the toxin binder, Paula?
Oh, I'm still waiting for it to arrive, but I got some of that. I think it's called Microsorb pain.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've used that for 7 days. She come good really quickly, actually, so I was quite
Okay.
lucky. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Just talking about how sensitive they can be. One of my girls, the sensitive one, the windsucker, she can't have apples because the minute I give her an apple, she'll go and windsuck straight away. So now I've got her onto pears and she loves pears now. Took her a while, but she doesn't do it with the pears. But it's so funny. I thought, why is she doing that? And then I thought, bloody hell, I just gave her an apple. So, yeah, it's crazy.
That's because apples are, and it just shows she most probably has gastric ulcers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And it's sort of like when she's been calm for ages. I've really nailed down her diet, and she's been so calm and chilled, and she hardly windsucks at all now. But the minute I give her an apple, yeah, bang.
wow. So that's guys, that's the acidity in the apple, because they've got I don't know.
She's not used to them either because she's never had them, so it's just not being used to them as well, I suppose. But yeah, just instant. Yeah.
Wow. So that's my windsucker is like that as well. Very sensitive. If I give him too many lupins, so it's he'll start even lupins, and it must be his compromised gut. Whereas on the chaffs, on the speedy beet, on flax seeds, and that he's fine. But as soon as I give him anything more than a handful of lupins, he'll windsuck. Must be
that's so interesting, because I've got to be careful with lupins with her as well. Yeah, give it too much, it starts getting really, it's very interesting.
It could be some hindgut acidosis as well. So I haven't got him on it as yet, but Conky's Own recommended Fabi. I haven't tried that on him yet because, Fabi is really good for the wind-sucking type colic-prone horses. And so I'm going to get him started on that. I just need it to stop raining a bit so that I can get my routine back together, because it's just my yards are just a bog. They're terrible. Been about 100 mils of rain here the last few days. I was like, that's so depressing. It's horrible.
I think I sent it to you.
What's that?
It's come over from me. I think we sent it over to you.
I think you did. I think you did.
Yeah.
So, unbelievable. But surely it's going to dry out soon. And then poor Sarah Becca's got all the dust and everything over there. So it's either one or the other. Some nice, perfect weather would be really good. That's what I'm wanting. I did. But I uploaded. Did you see the lesson, Paula? It's a 1.1 version, because I filmed it. I uploaded it last night, so you probably haven't seen it yet. I'll redo it today.
No, I'm going to watch it. The last 6 weeks I've been so ill. Like I've had this virus twice, and I'm pretty sure it was COVID, even though it didn't come up on the rat test. But my son and I have just been so sick. This is the first day I'm actually feeling a little bit more like myself. So it's been awful.
Good. You look better.
Thanks. Yeah, last time.
Hey, you did well to get onto the Zoom, because at what time is it there?
It's 6:10 now. So
wow.
Yeah.
So, and yet it's 9:10 here. So it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were only 2 hours ahead. I thought you were only 2 hours ahead.
No, well, we've had
you
daylight saving. We've gone into daylight saving, so yeah.
So that's why it changed.
Yes. Oh yeah, because you wouldn't realize it. Yeah, so we're an hour ahead now.
Well, it's good that you did the Zoom invite on Mighty Networks, because that told me exactly what time. It said, instead of saying Australia time, it was like 2 p.m. Pacific Daily, yeah, whatever it is.
Oh, awesome. Okay, what does it do that for you, Paula? Nat, what time is it there?
Yeah.
And it does it for you, Nat? Does your own
Yeah.
time?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So I changed it to 7:30 for me.
Fantastic. I'm really lenient. What's that, Paula?
Oh, where are you, Nat?
Oh, I'm in South Australia, so it's 8:45 here now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Be the same time everywhere.
I know.
It's be the same. Why do we have to have all these different time zones?
Damn the sun.
I know, buddy, son. Let's get your act together.
Oh no, I guess damn the earth for going around the sun.
I know. Damn the earth for moving. Just stop for a certain time. So anything you wanted to ask, Paula? How's your team of horses other than pasture?
Oh, the pasture. Well, I'm just not putting them on it, and we're just mowing all the time now, and because I can't keep them locked up forever. So, and I know mowing's not ideal because you know it sort of makes the sugar content higher, but I don't really have a problem with the sugar. It's more the toxins. So, yeah, we're just keeping my areas mowed and not putting them down in the other paddock, because that's the big toxic one, because it actually water pools down in that paddock, and especially around the tree that's there, and it just goes. It's just right. Yeah, so, but yeah, I had one with a paddock accident. She did the splits, so she was lame for ages, and then I had the other one with staggers, and then I was sick, so it's been shit.
I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah, yesterday I actually got out there and put the bitless bridles on them again, because I started doing that, and then everything happened. So then I got out there yesterday, and the really interesting thing is, the girl that's the green, the first time I put it on her, she was fine. The other one that's not green has done dressage. She was like, what the hell is this? And she was really, not happy. And then yesterday when I did it, the one that wasn't happy the first time loved it. She was like, oh, this is great. I can eat carrots without something in my mouth. And the other one was like, what is this? So it's so strange how they work. But I think it's going to go really well though. Yeah, so I'm starting just putting their bitless bridles on them and letting them get used to them, and just doing a little bit of groundwork while they're on, and if they're in the moods, because I don't want them to get, iffy or funny about it. I just want it to be nice, and everything takes so much time, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
you just got to go slowly. Yeah.
Building the foundations, and that's what I want to. Yeah, it's just like you're building the concrete the foundations. It's interesting working with Dragon. So I started doing, and I'll get more lessons up with Dragon. I'll probably actually throw lessons in with Dragon through the series that going with Ty, because I retrained him back in 2015, 16. He was my first off the track. I rode him track work, and you can see, because he was the one that I did the whip tapping with. He's still quite worried about the whip, and I went to get on him just you think he's retrained. I've done cross country with him, just cross country training. He's gone to Goulburn Show and things like that, but he was still very worried, and he started flicking his tail when I went to get on him and that. And I thought, you know what? I'm not even going to, I just want to get on and ride, but it's showing deficits in his training. So back then, as I've evolved, I go straight back. I'm going straight back and starting to, and he was a quiet racehorse, but he did 2 tendons. He's got obviously negative associations with moving, and because he broke down. Yeah, he did 2 tendons, and he used to hang really badly. So the poor bugger, was racing in pain. Yeah, and his conformation, he's going to be an interesting horse to work with, because his conformation is quite tricky. So Sarah Becker talking about how they feel, they're all different. So Dragon is a beautiful horse. I've got a video where he's quite hard to put weight on the forehand. He's and even when I want to do a video, I don't know if it's going to interest people, but I wanted to do a video. You can let me know if you'd be interested, of an assessment of him of looking at your horse and feeling their muscles, because Dragon's a really interesting horse. You'll feel him, and he's very tight in his neck. Now this would be, he's been a horse that's very difficult to soften and get on the bit. He's wanted to lean on the forehand. He's quite weak behind through his conformation. He's got Secretariat in his breeding. So he's got some, I've got 2 Secretariat, both chestnuts.
So
Lovely.
Sailor too.
Yeah, he's beautiful. So he's
And
granddad.
Northern Dancer. Do you have Northern Dancer then?
Oh yeah, they're Northern Dancers through a lot of them. Yeah, and
Mine Hill. Mine come from Dane.
oh, beautiful. Yeah, Dane Hills are beautiful. There's so many. There's some beautiful lines. There's some really good jumpers. They've got 2 Sadler's Wells. If you've got Sadler's Wells in your breeding, you've got a really good jumping horse.
Is that
usually.
Australian though?
Sadler's Wells is Australian, I think. I think he was an Australian sire. He's an
'Cause the
older
names
sire.
you guys said, I'm not recognizing any of them, but
Yeah, they're different. Yeah, American
Yeah.
race a bit
but
different.
I
Oh,
interrupted you. You were talking about Dragon.
Oh, well,
Okay.
yeah. So I wanted to go through because I think it's really good to get. I really love to look at their body and if they're tight or if they're locked. There was this particular mare, and going back to Sarah Becker, you know, when you said you feel like that they're a slave by tying them up and things like that. There was a mare. Now she was I'm going off track here from Dragon, but the conformation is sort of similar. She was a client's horse that I had in called Tipsy. Now she was a trotter, and she had been off the track for quite a few years. She was sent to some guru trainer here, you know, more natural horsemanshipy. The owner was still having problems with her. She was sent to 2 or 3 trainers, and I was teaching out at this equestrian center, and I got on her and she was pig rooting, and she would actually try and bolt. And I said, look, I think, you know, it would be good if you sent her for training to me. And she was interesting. She was chestnut. She was an interesting learning curve because she was like a rock in her body. She was just rock hard. No soft muscles, and it was all emotional, not only physically the way she moved, but it was all emotional. And just by going back and retraining the stop and go and just having her stand there, tie up, but teaching her to give to pressure, lower her head, and just little bits of brushes. She couldn't handle her body, and she would get cranky. She was very cranky with other horses and herself. She'd get cranky. Within 3 months of her being with me, she transformed. No body work done other than stop and go and me brushing her, but no osteopaths or chiropractors. Her whole body softened. Her neck started changing shape, all of that just from the stop and go and turning and yielding and teaching her to lower her head and use her body in a completely different way. It was amazing. And she's still now, she went back, and I'm sometimes amazed at how horses transform just from the basic responses. So it's just showing you that, yeah, just even teaching them to move correctly and stopping and going and being in self-carriage does something mentally to them. It calms them down. But going back to Dragon, I wanted to do an assessment to show going through. So I was looking at Dragon. I thought, geez, you know, feeling their body and getting to learn to feel their muscles, because it's sort of a, it's going, but it's mind body. It all is mind body. You know, physical, as you change them physically, they start to change mentally as well, and vice versa. And so I like to look at their body and do a before and afterwards of when you're starting to do your basic foundations of stop and go and all of that, and seeing if they change. Because Dragon, and I'll go through, he's very hard. And even though I've had him for since 2014, I've competed. I haven't competed on him, but I've gone to cross-country training. I've taken him out to shows, Goulburn Show, and he's been on trial. He actually went, I used to teach beginners on him. So he's a quiet horse, but just looking at his body, he's really rock hard in his neck. He's very tight in his shoulders, and he's sort of got sore things. And it's interesting because I thought it's unfair for me to get on and ride him when he feels like this, and that he's showing some tension, even though he's a seasoned horse. You know, he's been teaching beginners. So I don't know if it would be interesting for me to go through and just say, you know, show where he's hard and show the shape of his neck, because it's just, yeah, he's a difficult horse. He's you know, some horses are naturally upright and in self-carriage, and they may already be soft in their body, but this is a thing with your horses that you're riding, Sarah Becker, you know, asking them to go in a frame and that when they're really rock solid in their neck, they can't physically do it. It's painful for them. And that's also something that I need to think people need to look at and say, can my horse physically be able to do that, hold that position or hold that frame? Because in racing, they're not asked to do that. They're not asked to come up on the hind end. It's a gradual.
I feel like these warm bloods have been bred to be able to do it much easier.
They are, absolutely. Yep. Because thoroughbreds are bred for racing. They're bred for speed. And we need to remember that. It doesn't say that they can't do it. They can do it. It just takes more diligent training. Any horse, like you go look at the classical dressage trainers, they've got that, they said any horse can do Piaffe and Passage, but it's correct training. And you also, what the thing is with race horses as well, they start really young. So you've got the wear and tear in their, you know, their sacroiliac area over their lumbar area. So you want to go through, and that's why I always, you know, the kickstart, going back and rehabilitating them, because they've been, particularly if they've raced or they've been in work, there's so much wear and tear put on their hind end. And I like to make sure that they're comfortable, because we're through the retraining process, we're asking them to take weight off their front end and shift it back to their hind end. But if they're sore, or even if they've got memories of being sore there, they'll want to avoid to do that. So I noticed with Ty, and you'll see that as we go through the retraining program, there's times through his retraining where I could feel that he wasn't comfortable and he was sore. And I ended up, and I'll actually go through, because I filmed everything. I've got about 75 videos of it. I have got so many. But I ended up going, and you'll see, one day he felt really good, and then I've got a video saying he doesn't feel right. So you'll be able to see that. Talking to Gary Christo, I think he goes around Australia, actually. I don't know if he goes to Western Australia. He's fantastic. He's a chiropractor. He went around with Takeover Target, you know, the famous sprinter. Yeah, that's, if you see my profile, in, you know, my little head profile, that's Takeover Target I'm with.
Oh, cute.
Australian, yeah. Anyway, he went around with Takeover Target. So he's a really good human osteopath and horse osteopath and chiropractor. And so I ended up taking Ty, the client's horse, to him, and he had a rotated pelvis. So, and he'd been looked at 2 other body workers. So it's interesting. And it was only Gary, and also Gary picked up as well. So this is why a lack of flexion in the off front. Mm-hmm. So it's so, there's so much with horses, but just looking at the holistic picture, and the reason he was struggling rotating in his pelvis is because of his off front, and he did have a drop fetlock. I'll show that as well. So Ty's not, he's a horse that had a lot of starts. He was with quite a nasty trainer. He'd had a rough trainer, I should say, but he had a rough, he's a war horse. He really is. So watching him through his retraining process, he's a war horse. His owner, before he trained, little girl, she's only 12-year-olds, could walk underneath his stomach. That's how quiet he was. But in saying that, he was showing he would stop on her and turn around and go back to gate. He would, you couldn't get him to go down to the paddock. So, and that's what Sarah Becker, they're all different, you know, whereas Ty had signs of learned helplessness and just habituation to pain and habituation to, you know, the stresses of racing. He wasn't a windsucker or anything, but he was very shut down. And it was like, and it's interesting, the owner said it was like no one was home a little bit, just sort of a bit. Someone was home, but he was shut down. And by the time he went home, he was, you know, like he was just, his personality started coming out. His temperament started coming out. As I showed him, as he knew he could relieve the pressure and become very light and fluid to the aids. So it transformed him. It's just retraining the basic foundations in hand and then under saddle just transforms them so much, not only physically in their body and their body shape, but also mentally. So yeah, it's I know, like Paula Sarah Becker mentioned earlier, you know, when you thinking of training them, she feels like she's sort of making them a bit of a slave. And I can understand that. And I think that's why Warwick Schiller and all those relationship type people, trainers get attracted, you know, and I can understand that because I sort of feel like that myself, or felt like that. But the reality is having our horses so clear in their training and having them where they understand and they can control their environment and control the release of pressure, it is ethical for them. It's creating such a calm and controlled environment. So it's hard. I actually still find it hard to come from, you know, that framework, but you can see, you know, that doing correct training for them is actually doing the best for them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thanks to you, I had a light bulb moment when I first started following you, and both my horses actually were shut down to a point, one more than the other. Even though the other one was well handled and well trained, she was still shut down. She's only now just starting to express herself, and I'm letting her, and she's like, oh, I'm not going to get in trouble for expressing myself. So it's just so amazing to see when they realise they can actually be themselves without getting hammered for it. They're amazing. They just, they start to flourish. They really do.
They do, don't they? And that's why I think Andrew McLean has had problems with equitation science. So equitation science is starting. It's in the Pony Club syllabus now. So they're, it's actually mandatory Pony Club syllabus, learning theory. And so it's really good. I think in, 5 years, it's just going to continue to evolve and become going to start to, spread out into ethical, getting into your high level dressage and all the ethical and racing everywhere, questioning, the methods and being replaced with more ethical training and science-based training. But I think because it's science-based, people feel like that they're losing that, but I just want to develop a relationship with my horse. But doing this is developing a relationship with your horse. And it's actually, I think it's more selfless, because even though we're animal training, we've chosen to bring horses into our lives. So we do need to train them. We need to train them, because otherwise, if you let them run amok and control their environment, they don't understand what's expected of them. And so they'll just react with fear, because that's what they are, a fear and flight animal. But if we can, as we, and this is what this mare showed, and I'll go back and start to do it with Dragon, because he's obviously got deficits in his training that I missed back then, or they've come back because he's been out of work for a while, or, it's still in his memory bank from racing. But as you can, when you can control their legs and through fearful stimuli, instead of them reacting and running away, because they'll do that and then look, if you can slow their legs down so that they react less, it physiologically calms them down, and it doesn't reward. If they don't practice the fear and flight behavior, they don't get the fear reaction. And so they're not building up. So fear is learnt. Like any fear behavior is learnt immediately. They'll learn it and it'll be there forever to go back to. And that's the problem we have with off-the-track thoroughbreds, because we know that they've all built up some type of fear, because racing is so demanding on them. They all have it there. It's how they express it, whether they're very quiet and shut down, like one of your mares, Paula, and like Bart, but though Bart seems pretty chilled. He may have had not all of them are traumatized. I do think that every racehorse has something there, because just racing, I mean, if you've been I used to run 20 Ks, like I was a maniac. I was really obsessed. I get obsessed with everything. And it was so painful. I'm like, but I can do it. If I was a horse, I'd be like, no way, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. This is like poor Junior, my windsucker. He had to be like B1 vitamins going to the races. But you look at this poor bugger, he had about 85 starts, windsucks, gets the colic and everything. He's got buck shins. And so you can see how much he was pushed as a 2-year-old his shins, but now that's so painful. So even if unless they're like, you know, trained so well that they go into a race and they're so fit for it. I have strapped hundreds, I've probably strapped thousands of horses racing, and even the bestest trainers, like trainers that really love their horses, I have brought horses back in that have raced their guts out, that their eyes are bulging because they're not fit enough for the race. So, you know, even if they've been with really good trainers and that, I still think that they're pushed to their limits. You know, in the wild, they're not going to run till their lungs burn, and yet we make them run. So there's still some aspect, you know, that of negative association in some way, I think, anyway. But in saying that, a lot of horses, you know, they have a different personality, or they haven't had a long race career. It's also how much they've practiced something, you know, repeating behaviors. Yeah, but that's the thing with off the track thoroughbreds, is they've practiced the flight response. Nearly all of them have practiced the flight response. So whereas if you get one that started like my riding pony, she's never practiced the flight response because I've had her from a weanling and I've handled her from a weanling. So we haven't got to go back and retrain that or build new associations and new memories. And that's the thing with off the track thoroughbreds. We've got to, I suppose we're taking on animals, or a bit like people that have had PTSD, some type of it, you know, because horses are flight animals and racing is very scary. It is, you know, for a horse, very demanding for them.
When you think about it,
what was that, Sarah Becca?
It was Paula.
Oh, Paula.
Oh, me. I was just going to say, when you think about it with the racehorses, I mean, they're in that barrier and the barrier opens. I mean, that's a flight response, isn't it? So they're actually trained to have a flight response, really.
They are.
I was going to say something about that, because Sailor, well, there's certain things that have like made me jump and he doesn't jump at all. I mean, we got lightning struck right over our heads, like, and he didn't move. And like, I jumped, and gunshots he's fine with. But one day there was a cart that went by and it had that clanging sound, like the gates opening, and he just took off running. And then running back and forth and running and running and running and running. He would, I mean, thankfully I went out and said, slow down, wait. And he did, because he does listen to my verbal commands.
The thing is, that's good having them trained to verbal commands. It's really good. But what you want to make sure, so if you are under saddle and you heard that clanging and you hadn't trained him to stop, to be able to slow his legs down, he is not going to listen to verbal commands under saddle. Well, unlikely to. You know, so that's why it's great to have the verbal commands, great to have them responding to the cues. And that's what we want. That's what the Liberty training is. But that is going back and starting from going to pressure release and then adding, that's what I go into in classical conditioning, adding the cues to it. So they're linked to the pressure release. And then in situations, you know, it solidifies it more. So.
Bye.
I think we've lost Nat.
Nat had to go.
Oh, it had to go. No worries. Yeah, well, we could probably getting over time a little bit, so we can probably leave it there unless anyone has any more questions. So have a look at that lesson. So it's learning theory, and I've got someone else joined the course. So our group. So I just said, well, it'll evolve. I've got so many wonderful plans for this whole, I'm so excited, but of getting 2 more lessons. I've started on another lesson, so I want to try and get up. I think we've got the learning theory one in, and then we're going into the next lesson after this learning theory is the shaping scale. So this is really interesting. So this is all your equitation science. So it's like the German, I don't know if you've heard of the German training scale. I think a lot of us have, if you've done dressage, just trying to remember, relaxation, suppleness and everything. So equitation science, so they have their training scale. So you're starting off with basic attempt. And this is where you would go with Sailor, Sarah Becca, is because he's responding to verbal cues, but you want to see if you can actually slow his legs down with your pressure release. So you start off with basic attempt and release as soon as he gives you one correct response. And then you start to shape it. There he's giving you 2 steps back, and we work up to all proof where you can stop your horse in hand and under saddle at an airport when some clicker. So that's, you know, some big bang goes off. So it's shaping your horse all the way up to the subtlest. And that's why it's ethical, because we're making sure we don't want to keep them at this heavy response, which that's what racehorses are like, you know, that shut down. Or the riding school, the horses you're riding, Sarah Becca, where they're sort of, they've got the nose bands on and they're, you know, you'll notice, you have a look as you, Sarah Becca, when you're having lessons, what I would suggest is to try and be objective, use them to maybe work on yourself and your balance and your position, but try to not take on board what they're teaching you, but just look at it and go, okay, is she teaching me when she's asking me to use the dressage whip? Am I stopping as soon as the horse gives a response? Or is she still having me to keep tap? So imagine how confusing it would be for a horse if you're tapping the dressage whip to ask the horse to go forward. The horse goes forward, but you keep tapping. And that's what happens all the time. And that's what you'll notice in riding schools. And so the horse ends up either going, well, I mean, imagine how annoying it would be to have this continual aids being applied. You'll see this in the high-level dressage riders, the leg is continually going. It's like the horses it can't get rid of the pressure. So it either shows conflict behavior or it shuts down into a form where it just habituates to this pressure. And then that's where you get horses that either won't stop with the reins, which are race horses. And that's another thing, Sarah Becca, the difference with race horses is they'll be usually very heavy in the bit because they're being taught to lean into the bit. So reins, for racehorses, reins generally, they mean stop, but it's a bit confusing. But they mean stop, but like really heavy. But they also mean, this is where it's confusing, they also mean sort of go. It's hard to explain, but when we're galloping, we use our body, but we want them leaning up into the bit and like holding into it, but holding, because I'm probably still built like a truck from galloping so much, because they're leaning into the bit and you're just holding them, all this pressure where you're built like Arnie Schwarzenegger. And then when we come up the straight and allow them to go, we release the pressure. And you'll see how people say, oh, racehorses are taught to go when you release the reins and to stop, to stop when you release the reins. Well, that's not true. They're sort of taught, but when you release the reins, you let them stride out. So the bit and rein pressure is very confusing for racehorses, and they're not a slowing aid. They're more of a leaning into it, like really holding. So that's the first thing you want to teach your off the track thoroughbred, is to give to pressure and to give to pressure and to stand in self-carriage. You'll find often that they'll stand, but they'll want to go back and lean forward into pressure again, because they use it as a bit of a crutch for their balance, but they're also taught to lean into pressure. So, and it's a bit of an insecurity for them. It's like, oh, you want them to stand there and park. And then you'll see with Ty in my lessons, I teach him where he stands there. I can walk out, arc all around, back to the side, or I can walk and put 2 show jumps up, and he'll still stand there until I come back and move. So that's called park. That's stop consolidating your park. And I did 2 lessons before I even rode. So when I got to under saddle with Ty, and you'll see this as well, he wouldn't stand at the mounting block. So I actually spent 2 sessions before I even got in the saddle and walked off until he stood at the mounting block. So it takes time and it takes patience, whereas you just want to get on and go, oh, well, I'll work on stop, next time I just want to ride, which I feel like with Dragon, because I just want to get in the saddle and ride. I feel like.
No, this woman's been making me go, because both my friends are ex-teachers. And so they're basically just giving me hours of free lessons, but she's making me do the walk and the halt and the walk. And I've been lunging the horse. And she uses the dressage whip with a long tail. So you're like.
Yep, a lunge. Yep.
Yeah. So I've been doing that. I mean, I learned it. Wasn't that hard.
Yeah, so have a look. What I would suggest is try and put that to learning. So try and bring your learning theory into it. So the lunge whip is negative reinforcement and you want a response from it. But how are you using it? Usually people lunging will just keep flicking it. And
No, she
flicking
told
it.
me. Yeah, she's like, stop
And-
now. You got what you wanted.
Okay, as long as you get it, so stop and then, but you want to refine it. So you really want to learn to watch
But
the
it's
horse.
scary. They're doing it because they're scared.
That's
They're like,
exactly right.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's why we go back and we get them. We don't even lunging is quite advanced. I don't lunge right to the end because I would prefer it. And I don't lunge in a circle, but I'll walk around them and then start to increase my distance. You want to be able to have control of your horses with some cues, some voice cues as well with lunging, because as you move away from them, I start to lunge by doing my in hand, facing them first, and then doing that facing the front, looking, and then facing them. And I've taught them I only start to lunge once they're really light in their responses and they're responding to their cues. And then I'll face them and start to step away gradually. And I want to be able to control their movements as I step away. And you need to have them at least responding to cues because you haven't got the control once you're increasing the length of the lead or the lunge lead. And they are frightened of the whip. So this horse is just going around because he's fearful. So that's doing nothing positive. Whereas if you gradually habituate them to the whip, I don't use a flicking whip because once again, I would rather use a long bamboo stick or I cut the end off the lunge. Okay, because the flicking part is random movements. It's still not clear. So I'll get a long lunge lead, a long lunge whip and cut the end off so that I can still do little taps and that it's a clear response on a particular part of their body. Whereas lunge whips, you'll find that they're flicking them around everywhere, around their legs or around their butt, and it's not a clear, you want to have clear points on the horse's body for each response. That's how clear we break it down in equitation science. That you're picking a point on the shoulder to move their shoulders across. You're picking a point on their hind end to move sideways. I like to, when lunging, because we use to teach them to go forward, we use it on their rib cage, but I like to teach them also to go forward by tapping the whip above their tail because it's a bit easier when you're lunging, or on their back of their rump, but not on the side, because on their side, a tap on their side of on their hindquarters means moving to the side. So you wouldn't want to tap them to go forward as well, because that's using one cue for two aids, and that's confusing to a horse. So you want to break up. But if I teach them with a tap on their rump, on the back part, that I find that is my second forward aid. So you can have three aids or three cues for the stop response. But you can't have the stop like one cue or one aid for two different responses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The only positive thing I can say about it is that her horses are in fantastic shape. I mean, they are just yoked, muscular, and because she exercises them all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, it doesn't matter if they're in pain, they need to do their work.
Yeah, see, that's attitude is just very typical. The whole, and I think I did a post, was there one on the page where, the typical, I remember having lessons where, push through it, just make them rounder, push through it, get them on the legs, on the aids. And I was like, I felt, oh, my poor horses, Mido and Toby. Seriously, I look back and just in horror at what I did, but I didn't know any better. What do you do if you depend on people to teach you? And we didn't have this wonderful tool back then, whereas we can find online training and pick coaches and that we feels right for us with so many wonderful online tools now. Whereas back then it's like you go to your dressage coach and all I remember was like rounder, and I would look at everyone else going around. I had a really stressy off the track thoroughbred. And they'd all be overbent and all jammed up. But I thought, they're going around nicely. And my off-the-track thoroughbred, he was very hot bit like your mare, probably, Rushy, and he would just like electric legs. He came from a trainer that used a jigger, so now I know why. But I couldn't put my leg on him, and he was really tight and stiff. He would rush, so I just try and hold him together, and he'd head up in the air. I'm like this, and I'll be like so disheartened, because everyone else was going around round and relaxed. And my coach would get on and jam him up and have him going around good. And I thought that was wonderful. And I'd get on and it was like, nah. But I'm so glad now that I had the struggles, because it made me look for a better way. And that's when I went down to Equine Behaviour Centre. So, yeah, the old school. And I'd say, Sarah Becca, that's what your coach is, a bit more old school, sort of traditional dressage. But I would just see if you can look and think, try as you learn more about the equitation science and how it's so important to release the pressure at the correct time, see what she's asking you to do and whether you're doing that. And whether
she wants me to maintain contact pressure at all times.
Yeah. You just don't learn that, because that's not a good thing to learn.
And then like where you're tapping them to make them spin around.
Oh, is that moving the hindquarters? Disengaging? Yes. I've got a post. I've got to put it up today. I found this fantastic post. The whole disengaging the hindquarters thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really natural horsemanship. I've got an excellent post that I found that I was going to put up yesterday, but because I got busy trying to upload that lesson that I did 150,000 recordings of, I'll post it today. It's really good. It's from a talking about why disengaging the hindquarters is not good from an equitation science point of view, but also from a physio point of view. Have you seen that post? Oh, you've seen it.
I've seen it. I think so. About moving the shoulders more.
Yes.
Is that the one?
Yeah. Controlling the shoulders. And I'll share it because it's so good, because that's another thing. Learning I won't go into it. I haven't gone into it, or I won't go into it straight away with the Thai series, because it'll just get a bit overwhelming with the biomechanics, because we can go into that later, but I think we'll just get onto the basic foundations once we get past the shaping scale of getting into the videos of training. But the horse is and this was a big thing for me when it comes to straightness, and it was such a big learning curve for me, because a lot of the times the old traditional straightness is controlling, just get the horse up. German trainers go up, hind end goes into the front, push them from the hind end, and that'll straighten the horse. It doesn't straighten the horse. It's the shoulders, the shoulders and the front legs control the back legs. And once you correct straightness with your front legs, you then can ask the hind legs to go across. So it's controlling, a bit like driving. You control, and this is what I do so much of with Thai, is teaching turn to step out. It is so good. And it was such a relief. It's amazing how you can start to feel, oh, this is how I can straighten my horse, by controlling the shoulders first, and then the hind legs, and then allowing the hind legs by just teaching them yield. I go through all of this. I've got all the videos, but before you can move the hindquarters, you've got to be able to control the shoulders. It's such a good feeling when you've got this flowing turn, and you do that in hand first, and then you can teach it under saddle. But that was a really good post. And also too, the negative effects of the pressure on their lumbar spine, by it's like it's disconnecting the horse's body and proprioception.
Yeah.
The horse
didn't want to do it. They were
it's cruel. It's cruel. I think it's cruel because it's
Don't let his front move.
You want to be able to move the shoulders so subtly where they're flowing. But starting with a racehorse, it's like moving a freight train sometimes. Or they're like, like Nina. It's either way, but it's good either way. It's usually easier to get a freight train to respond to a light response than it is to get the sensitive mare or gelding to settle. But I just looked at one of the head downs with, you'll see me. It's so funny because I actually had to I could not get Ty to lower his head. That's how shut down and sort of like numb he was. I could have swung off it and he wouldn't lower his head. And I'm like, you'll see it. I don't know how you're going if you've done head down yet, but oh my God, I had to post in the diploma group, how do I get this horse to lower his head? Because he just wouldn't lower it. That was amazing. So you'll see how just it's so important to subtly give to the slightest pressure. But yeah, controlling the shoulders is really important. And that's what you'll go through. Stop, go. And then the next one we go to is turn before you go to yield. And a lot of the more traditional dressages, you go straight to yield. They want the horse. I remember this in my lessons too. Moving off the leg, move them off the leg, around, move the hindquarters around. And I was like, this poor horse is like a crab, just go sideways.
Well, what was funny? Like I told you, they're all numbed out and everything. And she came over to meet my horse. And one of the first things she said, with very much surprise, she goes, "Oh, he's a pet." Like,
oh, pet. Is that safe?
Yeah, like he's a happy dog, like, because he's happy. And then I walked him across the property, and she goes, with surprise, she goes, "Oh, he trusts you."
So that's an interesting thing in this whole trust thing. But, how do we know? And this is what I watched this trainer. I saw this trainer yesterday. She's an Australian trainer, but a friend of mine follows her. And I like to watch this thing, the big, like the Warwickshire anthropomorphism, using this whole trust. You want to get in connection with your horse. And she's saying, see her ears pointing at me. So she's learning to trust me. So she's thinking I'm keeping the lions away from her. And it's like, well, how do you know that she trusts you? I mean, trust doesn't exist with horses. It's predictability. And it's interesting, a little Bindi that I've got. I haven't even can't wait to introduce Bindi. She's so cute. She's just like this big. She's so little. She's a little racehorse. She had a lot of problems in racing. She bucked, couldn't get a bridle on her. Fearful, absolutely. But I haven't even officially retrained her, but I had to treat some wounds and I couldn't catch her. She didn't want anything near me. As soon as I went for the head collar, she pulled away. I couldn't get a bridle on her a lot of the time. I had to twitch her to get a bridle on and that. Now, through just doing what I had to do to treat two nasty wounds, just stop and go and approach and retreat with catching her. And when I got her with me, I did clear responses. As soon as when I had a wound, I had to twitch her the first time because it was huge. It was like stitching. Had to get the vet out and put it was way down, but had to twitch her once and then never again did I have to twitch her. And it was just tasking her to slow her legs down, stop. When she lifted her, wrapped her leg, as soon as she kept it still for one moment, I rewarded it. And just from these two interactions with her and teaching her head down, she loves me. Now, she absolutely loves me. As soon as she sees me, she comes running up the paddock. Because I've scratched her and everything I've done. Now, I can't say she trusts me, but she has, she has an association with me of predictability, of positivity, of comfort. So her association with me is not with fear. If I showed some aggression to her, I have no doubt.
Fear. Well, that's how this woman's horses are afraid of her.
Yes, it's terrible to see. Whereas Bindi, and the more I just can't believe the transformation, and that is just from a couple of basic responses. I mean, I lead her in and out, and I purposely haven't done a lot of retraining with her because I want to film it, because I want to film them all. So I lead her in and out, but quite often I'll use my leading in and out to the paddock to practice my responses, but I'll only do it with the horses. At the moment, I'm only doing it with the horses that I've already got in retraining because I want to film because I want to show all the different types of horses. So yeah, in 10 years, if you're still with me, I'll have about 20 courses in the thing, because I want to retrain, video all my horses. I've got 19, so I'll have 19 courses in there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my plan. But if it doesn't stop raining, I won't get there because I can't do anything. But I'm moving to Victoria, so hopefully it'll be better in Victoria.
You still have land there?
What's that?
Will you still have a lot of land there? And
I don't know. Well, I've only made the plan, Paula. I've got a 12-month plan to move to Victoria. Yes, I'll have land. My sister's going to buy a property down there. Land. Yeah. I'm really excited because I've got Andrew McLean and all the equitation science family down there. I've got Racing Victoria, which are very supportive with retraining off the track thoroughbreds and provide a lot of grants and opportunities. And also I love the whole barefoot, the barefoot blacksmiths down there. I follow
we're barefoot. Yeah.
Yes, we're barefoot.
I have an amazing barefoot farrier. Yeah.
So
he
good.
Only does barefoot, and he went to the school Heartland.
Yeah. There's some good. There's a really. He's over. What's his name? Bowker. He's on YouTube. He's over in the States, or he's been from the. And is he Bowker? I don't know. He's fantastic anyway. But I've got in Australia, and I was supposed to do a clinic today actually, and they cancelled it. They said because they had a lot of cancellations. The Barefoot Blacksmith. So that's my little book. Andrew Bowe, he's in Victoria. They have a huge rehabilitation centre.
Nice.
But so I've already done one workshop because I trim all my horse's feet. That's a massive task. And,
I took a little clinic on that, but I don't have the proper equipment. So,
it's not hard to learn once you get to know your own. I mean, it's good to do a few workshops. So I think that's just another ethical thing as well, especially with race horses, because their feet are so compromised from the demands of racing, but also having nails in them,
so far up. They go so far up on the race horses. Like the they just get plate. Well, I don't know I think it's the same in the States, but in Australia, you're still racing in plates. So you've got your plates on, then the plates off, then the steel's put back on, then the steel's taken off, and their feet are buttered. He was injured the next time he was on the track after getting new shoes.
That's when he did this.
Plates. Is that what you call them? New plates?
Yeah. Well, one of my horses I rode track work. He and the shoeing too, looking at hoof balance, because he did a tendon really badly, and he had two different shaped feet. So that's another thing is hoof balance. So I love the barefoot.
Yeah, my guy measures it with all these complicated things and checks each foot after he's done to make sure it's,
Okay. Oh, he's very diligent.
He's the one who went into my feed, house and was like, "Are you sure you're not feeding anything bad for his hooves?"
Okay.
He inspected my food bags, like my empty ones. Not only my full ones, but my empty.
At least he's on the ball. He's got your horse's best interests at heart.
Yes, definitely.
So, okay. I can't remember what I was talking about. Anyway, is there any questions or anything? But so I've got so have a look, if you can have a look at that lesson, because I filmed it. I was here from 9 o'clock yesterday morning to 12 o'clock. I must have done 55 takes on the keynote presentation of this lesson. My brain was falling out my ears. It was either I got my tongue all tangled up, or the dogs barked, or this or that. And I was like, and then when I finally thought I got it right, I realized that I recorded it with, my slide pack showing at the side and all of that. And I was like, no, because I didn't want that to show. So I was like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. So I thought I uploaded it anyway for you guys to see it. So it's the learning theory one. But I'd love feedback. Let me know if it makes sense, because you all have a bit of an understanding of learning theory. And then I'll redo it. I'll try and redo it today, but it might not be. I might do it in the morning, just the same lesson, unless you guys want me to change something, just with it. And I'll put it in there. I think I've just posted it on the news feed, but I'll put it in the group as well, the Thai retraining series group as well, and do a summary of it. But yeah, so that goes for 20 minutes. So I couldn't, it's just a lot of information, but I think it's really important to know. It just makes, once you start retraining, and as you can look back and go, ask yourself, is this negative reinforcement? Am I releasing the pressure at the correct time? Because getting your timing right is really important. So this is just telling you, it's basically just telling you about learning theory. And I think I did a good job of making it clearer, because I cleared it up for myself. I think it's clearer than what's in the equitation science books, because I've got, it's a really good book.
It's so funny.
Horses hate surprise parties, because so not all of it. I took a couple of things out of there because it's breaking it up for kids. Still missed a couple of things. But yeah, I find learning theory a little bit, I suppose it's scientific, and it took me a while to get my head around it. So I don't know if you guys will probably be a little bit better at me, but my brain hadn't studied for like 30 years until 2021 or something. So 2020, it's taken 2 years to actually get the neural pathways stronger. I was just like, I'd read a chapter and it's like, oh my God, that was really hard. It's hard when you haven't studied for a long while to get it all in, but now it's good. So yeah, so let me know what you think of it. And
yeah, I'll get to that today. Yeah,
no rush. And I really want to go. It's just it takes me so long, but I'll get the shape. I think the only other lesson we have is the shaping scale, and then we'll go into the basic responses, and I'll just get all the videos up, and yeah, we'll just work through it. We'll get there. Thank you for your patience. We'll get there, but once all the content is there, it's going to be so good. I'm really looking forward to actually getting into the practical application, because we're going to have all the base. We've got the Kickstart roadmap, which I really think is important for everyone that's coming in, because I had someone else buy a course this morning. So that's all there. I think it's really important to have where racehorses have come from, what equitation science is. And we've got I don't know if you've seen the ebooks, the principles of equitation science. And if you haven't gone through them, at least it's there for everyone to go back to once we start getting into the training, because if something doesn't make sense, we've got it all back to refer to. That's my goal anyway.
great. Sounds great. Awesome.
Okay. Well, and I haven't done a Q&A I'm going to go weekly Q&A in the Facebook group, only because I'm sort of running out of time. So I'll get into the Facebook group tomorrow and just change things, and we'll do I'll do the fortnightly Q&A in there, so that I can put a little bit more time into this side of it and just get a routine as more people come in. I'll just get some things happening in here, and you've got if you ever want to pop a video up, especially as I suppose we get into the retraining side, you can just stick a video in the little video group. Just go, can you have a look at this? Because Nat put one in there. She put a video. You can go back, and what's really good too is you guys can go in and look at the assessment I did of the video, or look at the comments, just other people's struggles or other people what they want feedback on. I think it's really good to get, to be able to have a source where you can go in and watch feedback on other people's videos. So that's there as well. And I'll do an update of the welcome video. I changed a few things, so I'm going to do an update on the academy and actually what you're getting and how to the tour around it. So I'll do that as well, because when I change platforms, it's changed a little bit. So lots of things to do. So I might leave it there, because I've got puppies to get out of bed. One of my little dogs has dementia, so I've been really upset about that.
Oh, okay. Taylor's very hungry and starting to throw a fit.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is bucking.
My guys. My guys are green grass.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He thinks it must be race day. Okay. I'll see you guys.
See you soon, Rebecca. So my guys, I've got to go and get those horses off the grass. I put them on. I just didn't have anywhere else to put them, because I've got a creek that floods through. Oh, here's Lulu. Lulu, she's still in her jammy. She's like, Mum, give me my breakfast. Hey, Sunday morning sleeping.
I miss my little dog.
What's
I had a
that?
little Jack Russell. I miss my little dog. I had a little Jack Russell for 14 years, and he was just the best
Oh,
dog. But he got old. Yeah.
what?
So
That's
I
what's
miss
happening.
him.
Oh, isn't that heartbreaking? But did he get to? Did he? I've got a little dog. I've been in tears the last few days. My little Minnie. She's actually. So I thought she'd sleep. She's just showing really severe signs of dementia. I didn't even realize that she had dementia until she started. I noticed she started. She'd always be sitting on my lap, but I noticed she started to quieten down, and then she's just sleeping a lot. And now she's bad. She's pacing up and down. She's gone from. It's so sad. I feel. Well, you would know what it's like, you know. And I rescued her off the streets 9 years ago. And I don't know how old she is, but she's at least 13, 14. She could even be 16, 17. And I know.
Almost time for him. Yeah, it's almost time. Yeah, I had to put mine down because he got kidney failure.
Oh, I had to put a little dog down with kidney failure. He was a rescue as well. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? It's just
hardest thing you ever have to do.
Oh,
is put them down. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just thinking, watching her deteriorate is breaking my heart. I'm not cry thinking about it, so I won't talk more, but it's breaking my heart. Oh, I've just been so upset, Paula, and she's slept by my side every single night for like 9 years. She snuggles, and I know that she's had since she's been with me, she's had a really good life, but it's just so hard, isn't it? And I think, I don't know, I've got her on my fish oil. You know, I've got her on Techniflex. I've got it because I know that's really hard. She's got arthritis. So but I have to, it's like she's forgetting how to drink water and eat. Like she's got to the stage. Yeah. And that happened literally within days. It's just come on so fast. And
with dogs, it sort of does, doesn't it? Like everything comes on so quickly. Like one day my dog was great, next day he was old and had kidney problems. So it's just so quick. Yeah. So
that's what's happened here.
That's what I was going to ask you about the Techniflex. Are you giving that to the horses?
Yes, absolutely.
And
how much?
How palatable is it? Because mine fussy eater.
It's they don't find it well, this one, so I've got Techniflex everywhere. Seriously, I love it. That's my dog version. That's the horse version. Dogs, well, I'm syringing Minnie because she's not eating, but the other dogs love it. They don't, well, depending on the horse. So I'm giving it to my 2 older horses that have had different types of joint supplements, and I'm putting in Sam, who's 22, I'm putting in 2 scoops a day, but I'll probably get him up to a really high dose of 4 scoops a day for 10, 12, as soon as I can get my routine together again and getting back on 2 scoops, 2 to 1 scoop. But no, it's not. The horse one has peppermint flavor in it to make it more palatable for the horses. But I have one horse I really struggle to get to eat it. Eventually they do, but they do take a while. Unless they're used to, because it has got a strong smell. So
I'm going to have to get creative then.
What's that?
I'm going to have to get creative then. Mix it with something.
See how they go. Tiger's now eating it. He was a bit funny, and he sort of left some of his feed the first 2 days, and now he's downing everything with 2 scoops in it. So he started, so they do tend to adjust to it. I don't know whether I put flaxseed, or you'd make a mush anyway. So my dogs are going to bark now. You make a mash, don't you? So maybe if you could sort of, they might be fine with it. They might be fine, or you might have to get a bit creative. Worst case scenario, but I don't like doing it, is syringing it, mixing it and syringing it. But syringing every day they get check of that. But, I don't like syringing paste or anything every day. See how you go.
Cool. Still waiting for it to arrive. So.
Oh, cool. Where did you order it from?
Oh, I can't remember now. I'll have to have a look. But it wasn't easy to get though. Wasn't easy
Oh,
to
really?
find.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's because of the whole pandemic thing, it's been hard to get stock in for certain products. And I get mine off Green Pet, or Vet and Pet Direct, and the Vet and Pet Direct just got it back in. It's been a little bit hard.
Pet Direct.
Yeah, Vet and Pet Direct is really good.
Yeah.
I get nearly everything off Vet and Pet Direct. Herds had some really cheap ones that were coming out due for like early expiry. They had them on special. Herds, HERDZ. They have some good products.
Wherever I got mine from, they actually rang me and said theirs was going out of date. Would I like 2 for the price of one? I said, yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Herds.
I haven't got it. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I bought the dog one's nearly going out of date. Because I don't, even if it went out of date a month or two, I don't very doubt it's going to make much difference. And the dogs.
Because you said to me on the phone that in New Zealand they have an extra 12 months expiry on theirs, so we only have 2 years on ours, and they have 3 years on theirs. So it doesn't really matter. It's just a different, and that's where it comes from, New Zealand. So you've got another 12 months at least.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad. I know that. Awesome. I might even order some more dog. There's quite a bit of dog one that's due for expiry. I might order some more.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just such good stuff. It's so good. It's worth working to get your horse to eat it because it is by far the best. I could sell it if I could. I love it so much. I'm just amazed.
Get here.
I'm just amazed by the results. I really am. I'm amazed with my little dog. I'm amazed with that client's horse. I'm amazed with my horses. So, yeah,
because I've ordered some for me as well, so I can't wait to get onto it.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah. I'll be interested to hear how you go because I've known a couple of people, but Pete, my ex, he's just a completely different person on it. He's got really bad arthritis, like really bad. But the important thing is don't be afraid to give yourself a good dose because it's dose related, and then you can cut the dose down. But I'm one of those people that if they say to take 3, I take like 10. Not like I'm just like, yeah, well, I'll take these just in case. Like of anything. And so I took 8. I took 8 Techniflex capsules, and I tell you what, I woke up the next morning so much better. So don't be afraid. I don't know if you like that, but I am. I know.
Yeah.
Give it to me. But it'd be interesting to see. I'll be interested to hear feedback.
Yes. Can't wait.
Well, I might head off and go and do these dogs and go out to the horses, get them off the grass before they come in with all these terrible problems. I'll be interested to see how they are. Hopefully they're okay, fingers crossed. But I don't know what else.
Every time you get them off the grass, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen tomorrow?
I know. And also all the supplements I'm giving them. And I'm thinking, if I'm putting them on the grass, am I wasting my supplements? Or they seem fine with the grass out the back, but I've put them up the side because the river was really full. It was very green, but it's long. So I'm thinking maybe the longer grass, apparently it has less nitrates.
That's where I went wrong. That's where I went wrong because I thought the paddock down the road there was going to be better because it was all long and starting to fall over. But that's where all the toxicity is in the ryegrass seeds. So that's where I went wrong. Yeah. So I hope you haven't got any problems.
As you know, they show it really fast, don't they? If I go out there and I really dosed them up with salt and magnesium last night in their feed. So if I go out there and they tend to rapidly show signs. I suppose that's a good thing, that they're showing signs and it's like, terrible, so stressful.
But I've seen it before firsthand, and now I know what to look for. And now I know my horse is a bit better after their grass-affected episodes and things like that. So I know what to look for now.
Absolutely. So, I didn't. Tommy, I didn't know, and I look back in 2016. He used to head flick in summer, and I just thought 2015. I just thought he was annoyed by little insects. I didn't even know.
Yeah,
still-
exactly.
I didn't know. I was still, and I was feeding barley back then. Like I was still very race, like that was 2000. I got videos 2014, and I remember him head flicking, and it's like, no one teaches you these things. You don't. There's not a lot of information out there unless you start to research it, or I think we're once again online, and having Feed Excel and Merida Richards and all Calm Healthy Horses is really good, but unless you do the research or you get connected some way, I had never even heard of it. Never heard of it. So
And there's not enough. No.
we're still here.
There's-
We'll have lunch in a moment.
I fed the horse and the chicken
Oh, you
and the cats. And you're still at it.
Oh, well, that's what happens when you live with 100 animals by yourself. Well, me anyway.
I just had my hair colored. I do not like it.
Oh, it's
Oh,
nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
they cut it. I don't like.
Lovely. I wouldn't even.
No, I love it. I was going to say something earlier. I absolutely love it.
It looks so nice and thick and voluminous.
Yeah, it's got body.
It has. Mine
But-
just.
No, I love it.
I don't know.
No, I like that. I wouldn't have mine cut because the horses cost too much, so I just leave it up.
I want it like red, like fire engine red.
Oh, you did. You wanted that.
Yeah,
Oh, well, it doesn't look fire engine red.
it looks normal. It's very normal.
Well, normal's okay. At least you can go, like, I remember a trainer I rode for, actually. Oh, my God. She liked a glass of wine and that anyway, Angie Davies. I went over there one night. She was a friend of mine as well. And she said she was streaking her son's hair. And she said, let me streak your hair. I'm like, oh, no. Would you believe it? I let her streak my hair. It ended up being about, I left and I looked at it and it was orange. It was just all these orange. I was like, oh my God. I drove on the way home. I drove to the chemist and got a really dark brown permanent color and put it through straight away. It was so bad. It was so
Oh.
bad.
Well, do you guys think it looks like a chestnut colored horse?
No.
It's more auburn, I think. More auburn.
Yeah, more of an auburn, and it's really nice. You can see this sort of nice, sort of like a long layer through it. It's
Yeah.
really nice. You've got really nice, healthy looking hair.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway,
Mm.
I don't like
I
it.
haven't. Mine's long, but it stays up. I let every now and then I let it down, and I go, "Oh, I didn't realize you had long hair." It's just, yeah, can't afford it. Got too many horses to feed. One
Yeah.
day I'll get highlights through it. One day, when I sell a lot more courses. So
Never.
I'll get there.
I just, I got a little mad money and I'm like, okay, let me get my hair done for the first time in 15 years.
I know. It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that. I
Is that a
haven't.
feast or famine?
Yeah. I think anyone with horses or just you get busy. And it's going to a hairdresser. I mean, it's a bit of a pleasure going to a hairdresser because sort of like, or getting your eyebrows done. I haven't even had, going and get my eyebrows done once a year. Because I think, and it's really relaxing. I think, oh, I feel really good. I love it when I get my eyebrows done, and then I don't get them done again for another 8 months because
Yeah.
I'm busy, or always just so busy.
Yeah.
But that's so anyway. Better TLC. What's that?
Sarah, I just wanted to ask Sarah Becker, because you and I were just talking about capeweed. I was going to mention capeweed, and I just was wondering if Sarah Becker has that over there, the capeweed with the yellow flowers.
What's it called?
Well, we call it capeweed,
Hmm.
and it's just like a green leafy weed. It's almost flat looking, but it bunches out, and it's just got these yellow flowers that look like mini sunflowers.
Yeah, with the black, and the capeweed's got the black in center, hasn't it? And the dandelion has the yellow center.
Are they,
Yeah.
do they put off this terrible
I'm gonna get a drink of water.
thorn?
No, they look exactly like mini sunflowers, and they're actually related to the sunflower, but they're quite toxic for the horses. And they just
star
end up-
thistle. Is it star thistle? That's probably what we call it. And it's very
Oh.
bad for them, and they lose control of their mouth.
Oh no, that's slobbers, and we've got we call it clover, I think, that gives them slobbers. Is that what you mean?
No,
Maybe?
I don't know.
Something- No. I'll
Why do we
to,
have different language when we're supposed to be the same?
I know. I might have to. I might post it on the Facebook page so you can see what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
because we've got some. Yeah, we're just talking about grasses and things like that. And I was just going to say how little research has really been done, because everything you read about capeweed says it's no known toxins, but I think they're so toxic because they get our horses every year.
Yeah, and if they eat it, who was oh no, I think it might have been you, Paula, that was telling me that your horses were eating the capeweed, because quite often they'll be in the paddock but they won't eat it. I don't think it tastes very nice, but
Bad on it this year.
yeah,
Yeah,
isn't it
so-
something?
That's when they got grass affected with the hood flicking and behaviour. And
Was that with the
then
capeweed?
one of them. Yeah, that was with the capeweed, and then we got the stagnus from the ryegrass down in the paddock. So double whammy. Yeah.
Unbelievable, isn't it? It's just a nightmare. I find pasture a nightmare. I was good. I don't know. Well, I'll go out today and just see how they are. But with that new one, but Calm Healthy Horses, she did have, because sometimes, I mean, when there's just green grass everywhere, I just don't know what to do. So I'm just hoping that the extra salt and the extra magnesium, they're in of a daytime, so they're not on it 24/7. But my yards are just complete bog at the moment. And then a couple of them went through some of the fencing, and now it's just tape fencing, but they pulled it all down. I was like, oh my God. So I'm just hoping that with all the salt and the magnesium that they'll be okay. But it's such a lack of knowledge out there, and so many horses suffer without the science, like even stiffness. And that's the whole thing, without being a big learning curve for me with the calcium deficiency. They would have been so calcium deficient for so long, and it's only the big head, although big head, these lumps came up over a few days last season, but they would have been very sore and painful in their joints and stiffness before that came up. And yet there's you really, other than them probably looking a little bit, they're a bit stiff, or when you're lifting a leg up, like Tiger, for instance, he was with a client, he's a client's horse back then, just always felt stiff in his near hind, and it's all probably because of calcium deficiency. But yeah, it's just, you just don't know, as you said, until you know what symptoms to look for. So it's just another tool in the box. My horse is stiff. Are they on green pasture? Are they, look at their diet. I think diet's is still, even calcium levels. It's interesting. I want to go in, that's what Feed Excel is. It's not the be all and end all, but it's really good to be at, because you have to consider pasture as well. I know Jenny from Calm Healthy Horses doesn't like Feed Excel. I think because she's probably stolen. I think they've got a content war. She stole my content. So, but it's a really good tool. She said that it doesn't consider pasture. No, it doesn't consider pasture. But if you've got the know that you need to increase your calcium levels, if you're on pasture, you can go into Feed Excel and say, well, I'm giving, you can see what the calcium and, the ratios are. So, yeah, I just think that having that tool and learning more will help a lot of horses.
Yeah, I found it very handy initially, just to make sure I was covering all bases, and then I just went from there. So with the pasture and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think anytime you have horses on pasture, you need to increase the salt, the magnesium. I think it's salt and magnesium and calcium. They're the two that because of the high nitrates and potassium. Yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at the moment. And I saw an article from Calm Healthy Horses. She said that you can have them on green grass at times if you keep the salt and the magnesium up. So fingers crossed. Otherwise, you'll see me on Facebook going, like you, Paula, when you we're like, oh
Nice.
my God,
Mm.
things we do. Anyway, I might leave it there and go and feed these little critters. So, any questions, let me know. Let me know what you think of the lesson. That'd be really good. I sort of, with my slides, I've got a lot of, it's a lot of content, but I don't know. I just thought I'd get it out there. Like I know Keynote's supposed to be sort of points, but I do have it's quite a lot of information. So let me know if it's too much information, because I can edit it, but be really keen to see what you think.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry,
Cool.
phone calls, phone messages.
Yes,
Yeah,
I've
for
got,
sure. Thank you so much.
no worries. Well, what we'll do next week. So we might organise next Saturday. We'll sort of look around next Saturday if that works for you guys.
Yeah.
And I'll just update in the group. I'm going to update the welcome tour, so I'll do that, and I'll redo I'll get the shaping scale lesson up, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
See ya. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.